Afternoon, everyone. It's 1:30, so I'd like to call the July 22nd, 2026 Board of Directors meeting to order. First, I'd like to recognize that we are conducting this meeting on the unceded traditional territories of the Shuswap Huipetcheswet Nations, and we're grateful for the opportunity to do so. We also have directors calling in from other territories, and I want to acknowledge those nations with our utmost gratitude and respect. Notice to attendees and delegates that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed to YouTube on the Regional District website. Before we do introductions, we have a new staff member here at the ACRD office, and we have a new Chief Financial Officer, Jennifer Robb. Would you like to stand up and maybe go down and tell a little bit about yourself? Okay. Tell us where you're from and a little bit about your background.
Sure. So I'm originally from Victoria, BC. I grew up on the island, loved it, and moved over to Vancouver to work in a variety of settings. Then moved up north to experience some of BC's beautiful nature as well, just experience a different type of living. My husband and I then moved back down to the island when it was time for us to return. And I live in North Nanaimo with my two children, Finley and Everly. They're 10 and 12. And I'm just so grateful to be back. I've worked in a number of different settings in government, from the federal level to crown corporations to local government. And so I'm just looking to be a part of this wonderful valley and all it has to offer.
Thank you very much, Jennifer, and welcome to the ACRD and welcome to Port Alberni. Very happy to have you here. And I think you're going to love working here. It's great staff and a great board, of course. Okay, so now we'll do introductions. First, we'll go to around the room and people can introduce themselves, then we'll go online. So we'll start here.
Kristen Kerdonahue, Administrative Assistant with the ACRD.
Cindy Solda, the alternate for Mayor Minions from the City of Port Alberni.
Good afternoon, Akama Penikote. I'm the Electoral Area Director for Sprout Lake.
Good afternoon, I'm Mike Sparrow. I'm the Electoral Area Director for Cherry Creek.
Good afternoon, I'm Susan Roth and I'm the Director for Beaver Creek. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Cynthia Dick, General Manager of Administrative Services and Acting Chief Administrative Officer.
My name is Debbie Haggard, and I'm a counselor for the City of Port Alberni and also Vice Chair for the Alberni Cape Cod Regional District Board of Directors. Chair Jack is on his annual leave, so I will be chairing the meeting today. And now we'll go to some stuff.
Good afternoon, Jenny Brunn, General Manager of Community Services.
Jennifer Robb, Chief Financial Officer.
Good afternoon, Shane Corin, Manager of Financial Services.
I had to put on my glasses so I could see people online. Director Sika, please go ahead.
Veda Singer, Director for Area C, Long Beach.
Director Steer.
Yes, good afternoon, Councillor Steer, Appointed Director, District of Tofino.
Director McEwen.
Good afternoon, Marilyn McEwen, Mayor of Ucluelet.
Director Beckett.
Hello, everyone. Bob Beckett coming to you from Bamfield, representing Area A. Thank you.
Director Boyko.
Thank you, Chair. Fred Boyko, Electoral Area Director for Beaufort.
Karen, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Karen Freely. I'm the Protective Services Manager with the ACRD.
Kylie, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. Kylie Pettifer. I'm the Community Project and Engagement Manager here at the ACRD.
Director Mastrangelo, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Lavanna Mastrangelo from Ucluelet First Nation.
Thank you. Eddie, are you there to introduce yourself?
I am, if my video ever turns on. Eddie Kunderman, Operations Manager for the ACRD.
And Tanya.
Hi, Tanya Crothers, Solid Waste Manager for ACRD.
And we just had Mike come into the room. Would you like to introduce yourself, please, Mike?
Good afternoon. Mike Herg, Special Projects Director with the ACRD.
Thanks, everyone. We do have an agenda in front of us. Is there any additions from directors? Seeing none, is there any additions from the corporate officer?
No additions, but we do have the late item for correspondence regarding the planning matter.
Thank you. Get in a motion that the Alberni Kuquart Regional District Board of Directors approve the agenda as amended. Moved by Director Solda, second by Director Roth. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Any declarations or conflict of interest? I would like to declare a conflict of interest with 11B because I am listed as a director with that organization. So, Director Cote, when the time comes, would you be able to chair that part of the meeting for me? Thank you. Next, we have invited presentations. We have some very special guests with us here today, and they've worked extremely hard and put in a lot of hours. I'd like to invite Stefan Ockman, John McNabb, and Roberta Jensen to come and give a presentation of recommendations to the 2026 board members' remuneration, expenses, and benefits bylaw.
Our presentation. I'll just wait till that comes up, I suppose. If not, I can just talk to who is supposed to. Yeah, somebody's doing it. All right. So we were convened. This was back a few months ago. The three of us. We met 3 times actually. The bylaw is called Member Remuneration, Expenses, and Benefits Bylaw. A 1095. You can't see it there, but it is 1095. So the review process, we reviewed it. It was first adopted in 2022, I should say. We also reviewed other local government bylaws in other communities here on the island mostly. We attended 3 meetings. We prepared a survey for directors, and we actually received surprisingly 7 responses. And then we conducted interviews with directors, during which the 5 directors participate. Also, the vice chairperson, Debbie Haggard, also participate. So the guiding principles that we put for ourselves is the balancing fair and equitable compensation for directors while considering public interest by ensuring reasonable costs. So that's always something important. You got to balance both. You can't just listen to one side. You got to say, well, for the good of the public, you have to keep expenses reasonable. So one of the recommendations, I'll do this side, and other directors, if you want to talk about remuneration, a big table, which is in the bylaw itself, we're not addressing that here. It's the one with the this much pay per director and this much additional if you're from the region, and et cetera, et cetera. We're not addressing here that because we didn't modify that very much. We just added, if I remember correctly, just 2.5% cost of living expense. But we did realize that with the cost of fuel and the services, and especially meals, that the prices have gone up. So we increased the meals. You can see the 2022 rates. They were breakfasts were $20. It went up to $25. Basically, each meal went up by $5. The lunch and dinner went up to $35. And if you're in Vancouver, Victoria, Whistler, or Kelowna, those prices were already at the whatever the proposed 2026 rates, but those also went up by $5 to $35, $40, and $45. So that was our recommendation. So that was my part of the presentation, and I'll hand it off to John McNabb.
Hi, everybody. It's kind of weird to be on the other side of the bench here, but I'd just like to say that this is not an easy task. It's, I mean, the people are talking about parity, they're talking about what's too high and what's too low. And really, I think UBCM really should have some kind of task force in the future to set a guidance so how it should be calculated, because no regional district that we looked at was really comparable, because they've all got different responsibilities and different levels of population and different levels of assessment. Some of them have sewer systems, some of them have water systems, some of them have parks and rec. So to formulate it to say, yeah, this is what it should be today is really, really difficult. So anyhow, going on from that ad libbing, the additional compensation for directors in attendance so EOC meetings, we thought this was important because we're seeing more and more emergency situations, and for the director that's actually involved in that, it's a huge amount of time, not to mention the responsibility. And I think responsibility is really something that needs to be, if you're making $1 million decisions, there needs to be a financial side to that, because you're the one where the buck stops. So we looked at that, and that's within the report you have in front of you. And we added reimbursement for alternate directors to attend local government leadership academy. We think there's a stepping stone or a building block for incoming new directors down the line. Gives them a good opportunity to see if they actually want to do that or not. Another sort of significant thing that we looked at and added was health and dental benefits for directors paid by the ACRD. So the ACRD is going to fund that part of it. Add health and dental benefits for directors' dependents, which are paid for by the director, and increase the remuneration for vice chair from 20% to 50% of the chairperson. So I had a little bit of that responsibility within my tenancy here, and I know how much work that actually is. So that's probably why it's on here, but we rationalized it and think that it's the direction we should be going. And the last one is increased director remuneration. So the public hearings, we went from $89 to $100, and committee meetings and public hearings less than 3 hours, 143 to 150. And an annual increase, annual cost of living increase for director remuneration from 2% to 2.5%. So I'd just like to say it was interesting doing this, but a challenge as well. We did have a great little committee, and staff is, as always, fantastic. So thank you.
Good afternoon. All right. We did do another addition. We added the board member recognition expenses into the bylaw. It's not a new expense, as this has occurred as an ad hoc basis in the past, but we thought it was important to get it established so everyone's treated fairly. I'll ensure that board members are acknowledged at the end of their term with some direction. We also removed the requirement for the chair to approve childcare or family care expenses. The staff should proceed with processing this expense request if it meets the bylaw requirements without having to have the board chair approve it. removal of reimbursement for long distance telephone charges for the regional district business. It is basically obsolete in today's world. I think everyone with a cell phone, long distance is included. That is the end of our presentation. And I would just like to thank the staff very much for their support and all their help from the presentation and guidance. And it was very interesting to be able to interview some of the directors and get a better look at an understanding of what they go through and what's involved in the meetings. I was on school board many years ago. You got a flat rate and you attended meetings and that was it. It's a different world today. And that needs to be recognized, especially by the public. Thank you.
Thank you again. I just want to say thank you to Stefan, John, and Roberta. I know that all three of you put in a tremendous amount of work and effort into this special project. So thank you very, very much. And I'm sure there'll be lots of discussion from the board members, and that will come under 11A. So please be patient till we get to that point in our agenda. So again, thank you so, so much for all your hard work. Dr. Cote?
Before you leave, I'd like to say thank you also.
John.
Just before you leave, I'd like to say thank you to the committee members. I know it's a hard job, and I know each of one of you quite understand this position. So thank you for all that you put into it. Great to see you all again. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Cote. There is. You could stay if you want. It's cooler in here than outside. Thank you. Okay, we have no delegations. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have a board of directors meeting dated June 24th, 2026, the Agriculture Advisory Committee meeting dated June 15th, 2026, Electoral Area Directors Committee meeting June 18th, 2026, Committee of the Whole meeting June 24th, 2026, Beaver Creek Wider Advisory Committee June 25th, 2026, Sprout Lake APC meeting July 8th, Agriculture Development Committee meeting July 14th, and the Alberni Valley Regional Airport Advisory Committee meeting held on July 16th, 2026. Does anybody want to take anything out? Seeing none, can I get a motion? The Alberni Quayquot Regional District Board of Directors receive and adopt the consent agenda items. Moved by Director Ross, second by Director Sparrow. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Next, we have public input period. Public input period is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board or committee on agenda items other than items that are restricted, including a bylaw in respect of which a public hearing has been held, is not required to be held, or must not be held, a development variance permit or temporary use permit unless the delegate is addressing the board at the meeting during which the permit would be considered, ongoing legal proceedings, personnel matters, publicly tendered contracts before they are awarded. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand in Zoom to request to speak or raise your hand in the boardroom. Please identify your name and the civic street that you live on. For example, John Johnson and I live on Granville Road, and identify which agenda item you wish to speak to. You're permitted to speak for up to 3 minutes on an agenda item, and no presentation, handouts, or props are permitted. Is there anyone who would like to speak? Please come forward. Just please state your name and where you're from, and then I'll start the timer when you start speaking. Thank you. Can you please turn on the microphone?
Hi, my name's Patrick Schmidt. I'm with the HGB, or the Hawaii Group of Businesses, and I'm here to speak on the temporary use permit that we've applied for. I just want to add a couple elements of the progress that's been made since the last meeting. One is we've been working on condition 6 of the TUB that a letter of assurance has been written by McElhaney that we have enough water. And we've also met with the fire chief and have been able to achieve the things that they were seeking in terms of turnaround and an updated plan that makes sure the truck can do that. I know there's been some comments about being a temporary use permit, and it's not our preference. It's we have an issue with I guess timing to get the place rezoned, and we want to get going. So I think that's why it's currently under a temporary use permit. And if there's nothing else, that's the extent of my comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Next, we have correspondence for information. We have a letter from the Regional District of Kootenay Boundary regarding communications with the Ministry of Transportation and Transit. We have a letter from the Comox Valley Emergency Management Services regarding wildfire risk data gap on private managed forest lands, and a letter from the Corporation of the District of Oak Bay regarding local government climate action program funding. Letter from the Regional District of Central Okanagan regarding local government climate action program. A letter from the Seaview Seniors Housing Society, Forest Glen, regarding bus service between Ucluelet, Port Alberni, and various stops across Vancouver Island. A letter from the City of Merritt regarding animal control bylaw amendment, specifically pigeon release restrictions. Letter from the Town of Lake Cowichan regarding Elect Respect Pledge. The annual report, 2025 annual report for the Clayoquot Lives Fair Trust. And an update on the regional proposal for the Canada Soccer National Training Center from the Organizing Committee, FIFA 2026 activities in the Alberni Valley. Does anyone want to take anything up for discussion? Director Beckett, then Director McEwen, then Director Steer. Director Beckett, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to comment on item 9G. 2 weeks ago, I was talking to a candidate who's running in Langford, and I noticed on this individual's lapel, he had a unique pin, and I asked him, what is that pin for? And he explained that he had pledged to participate with the Elect Respect Pledge campaign. And I would encourage all of us to take a look at that program, that pledge. I think now more than ever, it's important that whether you're running or whether you're not running, you take a look at the philosophy behind that organization and that pledge.
Thank you, Director Beckett. Director McEwen.
Thank you. I'd like to pull out 9E, Seaview Seniors Housing Society, Forest Glen. I know we've talked about this issue in the past at West Coast Committee meetings, that there is no reliable bus service from the West Coast to Port Alberni and beyond. And just wondered if I could ask Eddie if there's been any movement in that direction to resolve that issue.
I know when BC Transit came to City Council, we had this discussion. Do you have any kind of updates here, Cynthia, at all, or do you know anything about this specific request?
I do not have specifics on like if any meetings have occurred. However, this has been highlighted for a follow-up for the UBCM meetings.
Fantastic. Any follow-up to that, Director McEwen?
No, that's great. Thank you.
Okay. Director Steer, you had your hand up, then you put it down. Was that what you had your hand up for as well?
Yeah, exactly. And just, as Director McEwen has pointed out, the challenges of regional transportation connection and the continued advocacy through the ACRD. And I think that advocacy needs to continue. And I was looking to see, and she asked the question where we're at on that. And if there might be, after UBCM, there might be more conversation around what role we can play to advocate for in those regional transportation connection questions.
Thank you for that. Anyone else? Seeing none, get a motion that Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors receive the correspondence for information. Moved by Director Solda, second by Director Beckett. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Next, we have correspondence for action. First on the agenda is request for support from our MP, Gord Johns, for long-term funding operational support for BC Ferries. And we do have a recommended motion. Is there any discussion or anyone like to go straight to the motion? Director Roth?
Sure. Federal support, so that's good. I move that the Alberni Quayquat Regional District Board of Directors support motion M-35, calling for fair, stable, long-term federal operational funding for BC Ferries, and direct staff to write to the federal government urging modernization of ferry funding, recognition of BC Ferries as essential infrastructure, and that copies be sent to MP Gord Johns, the local member of parliament.
Moved by Director Ross, second by Director Solda. Any comments? Director Beckett, please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm pleased that that motion has been brought forward. I'll remind the board that the Lady Rose Marine Services does receive some assistance from the province, and it's absolutely critical to keep that a viable means of transportation for our communities and down the inlet.
Thank you for that, Director Beckett. Any other comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Next, we have a request for support from the Alberni Valley Forestry Coalition for consideration for the Alberni Valley to be a pilot region under the Federal Regional Development Fund. And again, this is some new federal funding that's going to be coming out that the Forestry Coalition would love to get some funding and do some work, very good work in our forestry and our community. Director Solda?
I'm just going to go right to the motion. I'll move that the Alberni Quayquat Regional District Board of Directors sign a joint letter of interest to the Government of Canada and to the province to consider the Alberni Valley as a pilot region under the Federal Regional Development Fund to help fund a structure of collaboration that lets parties at the table plan together to attract new investment in into the Alberni Valley.
Moved by Director Solda, seconded by Director Roth. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Next, we have requests for decision reports. Board member remuneration, expenses, and benefits bylaw. And Shane's going to have discuss on this. Thank you. Please go ahead, Shane.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone. So again, a big thank you to the Remuneration Committee for their work on this and their time, as well as the directors for their survey attendance and their interviews that took place. That information was extremely valuable to both staff and the committee as they work through that. As the committee had presented, I just want to reiterate a few facts and items. The committee was appointed to complete a review and provide recommendations to the board regarding remuneration, expenses, and benefit bylaw. The committee had made a number of recommendations, and the draft bylaw is attached for consideration along with the estimated cost implications. Some of the more drastic changes to the existing bylaw are the direction for directors to attend emergency operations centers and be remunerated accordingly. The addition of extended health and dental benefits to be paid for by the ACRD. The increase of the vice chair remuneration from 20 to 50% of the chairperson. And I will leave it there, but we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Shane. Director Roth, please go ahead.
Thank you. I just have a few comments here. I support the committee's efforts to establish fair and equitable compensation. I'd also like to highlight that if this is about attracting qualified community members to local government, requires us to recognize not only compensation and benefits, but also the practical realities of the role. Directors are expected to attend numerous meetings where the official business of the regional district is conducted. Unlike jury duty and certain other public obligations, there does not appear to be a legislative provision that guarantees regional district directors protected time away from their employment to attend board meetings. For some potential candidates, the inability to secure time away from work can be a significant barrier to serving their community. If our goal is to encourage broader participation, and attract diverse candidates, we should acknowledge both the benefits of public service and the personal and professional sacrifices or risks that can go with it. For some community members, accepting elected office may create uncertainty in their employment if their employer is unwilling or unable to accommodate the time required to fulfill their duties as an elected representative. I just wanted to add that in because there's much more than just the, what we receive in a monetary way. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Director Roth. Director Sparrow.
Thank you for that. I know that the Remuneration Board gets a lot of information about other regional districts doing, and they have a hard time correlating that. But my question is more closer to the chest, I guess. So my question is, how does the amount of compensation presented today compare to the original monetary amount of money that directors were paid, considering the cost of living? Is the amount a higher percentage, wise or lower than it was when we first started doing this job? So, and reflect to the cost of living now, what they got then, we got now. Are we actually keeping pace with what we are? Are we falling behind? Are we making more? I don't know if staff have an answer to that or not.
Yeah, that's a good question. Shane, please go ahead.
Perfect, thank you. So looking back at the current bylaw that's in place, so that runs November 1st, 2022 to October 31st of 2026. That had an annual increase in the base remuneration of 2%. Now, when we look at BC CPI from BC, Vancouver, and Victoria over the past 5 years, so that's 2021 to 2025, we see an average increase of about 3.65%. A large factor in that is the 2022 increase, which was largely driven by the COVID pandemic, which we saw those large increases across the board, specifically in transportation and food. If we take the 2022 numbers out to look at more of an average year, it hovers more around 2.9% as an average. That's a year-over-year average. I did take a look at 2026 and where we're projected and where we're heading. And right now, January to June, we're sitting right around 2.1%. That could fluctuate depending on what the most recent tariff situation plays out and how that rolls forward. But to answer the question directly is the current 2% and the projected 2.5% does skim slightly below what BC CPI has been trending at. I do also want to flag that when we're looking at CPI, it does include a number of factors. It is a bucket of goods. So it isn't just transportation. It's not just goods, not just services. It's a bucket of all of those that are weighed and scaled appropriately. So.
Did you have a follow-up, Director Sparrow?
Of course. Would it be possible for the staff, but for next committee meeting, to figure out what it was way back when we started, the paper versions, versus the cost of living it is now, to let the board know that if we're falling behind, like it seems we're being right now, and say this is what it was percentage-wise, so they have an understanding of what this board was done, because right now they're trying to compare other boards and they say there's no comparables. They say they don't know exactly how to do it, but if they have what they have before and show them over the percentages and what they have, they'll have a better understanding how much we're falling behind or ahead. So a better idea of what it would cost to keep this board where it should be in the future, if that makes sense.
Are you able to do that for us for next meeting, Shane?
Yes, we'd be happy to. Is there like an exact date? Like we could go back to 1990, we could go back to 2000. Is there a preference?
Do you have a preference, Director Sparrow?
How far can you go back electronically? Does that make it easier for you?
Yeah, I would say from my perspective, the year 2000 sounds like a reasonable base point to roll up because we're about a quarter century in. So.
Thank you, Shane. Director Steer, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I would like to once again thank the committee for the work that they did and for Director Roth's comments, and I very much appreciate those, so I won't reiterate them. But the one thing that former Director McNabb did bring up was the challenges that committees face, and I can speak to our municipal issues as well too in coming up with those types of information. And he did point to one of the issues around potential lead of UBCM providing a framework for regional districts and municipalities to be able to have a better framework for coming up with these very difficult topics to deal with. And I'm wondering if there may be an opportunity at UBCM to bring that forward in some format, or either directly a letter to the executive of UBCM to help us in navigating this process.
Can you respond to that, Cynthia?
Yes, so this has been brought forward at previous meetings, and this was one of the topics that were identified in our request to meet with the Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs. We did include the more broad legislative reform, but also the points that were highlighted previously, including having provisions for elected officials. And so it was included as a topic.
You're good with that, Director Steer? Thank you so much. Director Cote.
Thank you. When I was on UBCM, we actually did have this come forward, and UBCM looked at it and did a quick review and said they didn't want to have anything to do with it. That's not the province though. So the province would be the ones to talk to. I do believe that there should be an average that all local governments should be paid out. And I think that it should be forthcoming from the province rather than from communities. And then however rich your community is, if you want to top it off, I think that that's where the remuneration part comes in from your local government. That's my own personal thoughts on this. But yeah, it already has been reviewed by UBCM. Thanks. Oh, I also wanted to point out that there's been a number of local government directors, councillors that have been identifying the fact that their pensions are actually being hit because they're missing so much work. So that's another issue. Not so much for the people around this table, because there's no pensions that come from this job, which is very sad, because after 21 years of being sitting here, I'm going to leave with a handshake. So that's, yeah, that's kind of something that I was trying to get UBCM or the province to actually look at, because I think that this is a job and I think it should be compensated for. Thank you.
You'll leave with a handshake and our love. Director Solda.
Don't worry, I have 22 years, so I'll be getting the same thing. But anyways, I agree with Director Cote. It should come from the province, but I also, what I don't agree is that we should still bring it back to the UBCM, because there's a different executive and everything like that. So they might take another look. I mean, you know, new eyes, fresh look and everything. I think it's important to do both. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Is it too late to put forward a resolution?
So yes, the deadline has passed for the resolution. However, like I mentioned, we did include this as a topic, and then in the report that kind of outlined which meeting requests the board did support advancing with. There was a link to the previous resolution that was put forward by Cariboo Regional District in 2025 that outlines what action was taken by the province or the provincial response. So I could again forward that to directors. And, yeah.
Director Sparrow.
Thank you. In direction with Tom Steer, or Director Steer, sorry. What he's saying, I understand what he's saying, but I'm going to put a little bit of caution in there, because when I used to do my fire chief job there, we got paid for doing fire investigations. So after doing investigation and doing all the work and submitting all the paperwork, at the end of the year, you're allowed to apply for remuneration set up by the province, who just gave us a raise that year for $3 per form. So after doing a whole day's work, you could apply for $3. So living to the province may not be the best thing unless we give them a framework to work within. If we want to do that and create a framework, what we think would be good guidelines, that might work. Otherwise, I'd hate to see us get paid $3. Thank you.
Director Solda.
And when we do this, could we send a copy to our MLA, just so I'm assuming we do send everything, a copy to her, but let's just make sure. Thank you.
I'll just chime in here. The only thing I'm not in 100% agreement with is sending alternates to the LGLA. And the reason for that is they're not elected officials. So the taxpayers are spending money for a non-elected official to go to a conference. And I realize it would be beneficial, but the board also offers training and alternates are included in that training. And another reason is like Beaufort is on their second alternate. Beaver Creek is on their second alternate. And Director Sparrow, do you still have your same alternate?
I do.
And she's been to one meeting that I can remember. So that's why I'm not 100% in support of that. But if everyone else is supportive, I won't vote against it just for that reason. I think we have to be united, but that is my one concern of all these recommendations. Director Cote.
Thank you. You know, this isn't a hill to die on, but I would agree that a lot of the times you never have even seen a director once, an alternate director once through a term. So having that knowledge is really not essential. There, you know, possibly what the regional district here can do is have our own little training session for alternates. And I do believe we have some kind of a package that we.
Yeah, we do have orientation training after the election, and they're always invited to attend.
Yes, so that would be. I think that they should have some training, but going to LGLA, I don't really see there's any real great purpose for that because the training that is provided is directly for the directors who are sitting at the table on a constant basis. Thank you.
Is there any more? Director Steer, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I would support both yours and Director Cody's comments. And I'm just wondering in terms of procedural in going through the adoption of this particular bylaw, what would be the procedure for withdrawing that particular component if the board as a group would be in favor of that withdrawal of that component of the bylaw? I don't know procedurally how that would work.
Cynthia, can you respond to that, please?
Yes, so it was included in the staff report that if there are going to be numerous changes, but if there's only in fact that one change, then we could go ahead with the readings, but put as amended to remove section 6.5.
Do we do first reading and put in there with the removal of 6.5? I think that's what you said.
So yes, you could go ahead with first reading, and then as is, and then for the second reading, you could put as amended, and then you would go through the other readings as normal, as written in the report.
Okay. Did you want to start, Director Solder?
You'll have to correct me if I get. I agree with everything on after all these years that I have been on the regional district as an alternate or as the chair in that. I would agree with on others too, just so you know that. I'll move that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give first readings to the bylaws cited as Regional District of Alberni-Clayoquot Board Members Remuneration Expenses and Benefit Bylaw number A10 2026. And we're doing it separately.
Moved by Director Solder, seconded by Director Cote. Director Boyko, you have a comment?
Yeah, I just want to put a comment in here before we finish our voting here, but are directors allowed in the EOC when there's activations?
Karen, are you on the line?
Yes, thank you. It's not typically the role of the policy group to be actually in the EOC. There's times where we can come through with a tour just to show you the EOC and what's happening, but it's not practice under incident command system to bring elected officials or the policy group into the EOC.
So why are we putting this in there to pay people when they're not actually allowed to go in there and do anything?
Well, because there is times where we're calling meetings and we need to come to the elected officials for decision making. And so we would be bringing folks into the boardroom and making decisions. And those would be times where we're specifically reaching out to elected officials to attend specific meetings and looking for direction when the policy group is needing to provide that direction for emergency purposes.
Okay, and just want to make sure you clarify that for everybody. I do have one question, and it's always a challenging. There's only two people that can make their own salaries, and that's CEOs and politicians. So whenever you're raising and adding things, it's always problematic. One thing I want to look at, or whatever happens after the next election, put some time into a limit on expenses, because sometimes they're going through the roof. And that's not in here at all, but I think we should add that potentially to a strategic plan with everybody in the future. And I don't necessarily agree with getting a gift because you showed up. Your gift is basically you're representing the public, and it's your gift to be elected, and showing up here and getting a $50 or $500 gift mandated by this bylaw. I don't agree with that part of it. Thank you very much.
Just another comment, Director Boyko, to your first question is lots of times there's media briefings, and I had to attend, and Chair Jack has attended several. So, that does take time as well. So
Is
it's
that not
just going
part
to
of the
meetings,
vice
it's
chair and
briefings.
chair compensation though?
When I know last year when I was called in to replace Chair Jack do a media briefing with the EOC, it was extremely overwhelming, and also we're all very high emotionally. So it was very difficult for me to do that. So I don't know if that would fall under the regular duties of the chair and the vice chair, but that's certainly something that we can look into.
Perfect, thank you.
Director Cote?
Thank you. I support the remuneration for the chair and vice chair. When I was vice chair, there was no remuneration. And I remember all the work that was involved, and have to give cheer out to chair and vice chair, because there is a lot of work that is done that is not seen behind the cloud. Anyways, thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments before I call the question? All in favor? A first reading. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Dr. Soldier, please go ahead.
Okay, I'll move that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors gives second reading to bylaw cited Regional District of Alberni-Clayoquot Board Members Remuneration Expenses and Benefit Bylaw number A1095/2026 as amended.
Moved by Director Soltis, seconded by Director Cote. Do we have to specify in the motion what's amended?
Yes, if we could just make that clarification that at the end of it, it says amended as follows to remove section 6.5.
I'll move that.
And that's okay with the seconder? Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Please go ahead, Director Solda.
Thank you. And I'll move that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give third reading to bylaws cited as Regional District of Alberni-Clayoquot Board Member Remuneration Expenses and Benefit Bylaw number A1095/2026.
Moved by Director Solda, second by Director Cote. Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion is carried. And please go ahead, Director Solda.
And finally, I'll move that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors adopt bylaws cited as Regional District of Alberni-Clayoquot Board Member Remuneration Expenses and Benefit Bylaw number A1095/2026 as amended.
Moved by Director Solda, second by Director Cote. All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, everyone. Next, we have the bylaw number E1069, Sierra Creek Community Recreation Commission Grant Service Establishing Bylaw Amendment 2026. And I will leave the room, and Director Cote will take over the position of the chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're on to bylaw number E1069, Cherry Creek Community Recreational Commission Grant Servicing Establishing Bylaw Amendment 2026. Now, Cynthia?
Thank you. So at the June 24th Board of Directors meeting, the board conducted 3 readings of the Cherry Creek Community Recreation Commission Grant Service Establishing Bylaw. The draft bylaw was sent to the Ministry of Housing and Municipal Affairs for feedback prior to being presented to the board for 3 readings. However, the only feedback that we received at that time was regarding the timeline for approval by the Inspector of Municipalities. Following the June 24th meeting, the bylaw package was sent to the Inspector of Municipalities for approval, and we received a response that 2 revisions were recommended or were needed for the bylaw, which includes the removal of fees and charges imposed under the Local Government Act from Section 5, cost recovery, as well as amending the maximum requisition amount included under Section 6. The ministry confirmed that the appropriate process for this amendment would be for the board to rescind 3rd reading of the bylaw, amend the bylaw, and to conduct 3rd reading of the bylaw as amended. The ministry has also confirmed that timing will still allow for this to receive ministerial approval in order to proceed with the assent of the electors in conjunction with the 2026 local elections.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or, Director Boyko?
So I have a question about Schedule A, the map. And when you look at it, it's clear but not clear. I just want to make sure it's very clear to everybody that it includes the entire Cherry Creek electoral area, including Franklin River, but does not include any Beaufort or Beaver Creek. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, yeah, it's just a bit fuzzy and you can't zoom in on the roads and make sure everything's there. I think it's a stretch to get Franklin River people to pay for the Cherry Creek Hall, but that is what is on here. My next question relates to the dollars per $1,000 of taxable land value, because it used to be 0.316 on the last meeting, and now we are at, what are we at now? We're at 0.0408. So it's an order of magnitude change. So is each household going to pay $230 on average for this? Or are they going to pay $23? I don't know if that numbers are correct for this service for the average value per year. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff can reply.
Perfect, thank you. So in relation to the numbers, I will take full ownership over that one. When we were initially reviewing, I had reviewed converted values, and the bylaw requires the net total assessed values, but that amount should be around $23.
All right, so an average Cherry Creek household for this bylaw will pay $23 based on average value of $566,000, correct?
Shane?
Yes.
And that's based on 1,000 households in Cherry Creek. Perfect. Thank you very much.
Director Sparrow?
Thank you. A few things here. Yes, they decided to include all of Cherry Creek, and yes, they are all taxed as of now through the grant and aid program, so that won't change anything. We know this year's $22,000 and they want to increase that $25,000. So the price per household is going to be $3 or something, increase in value. But they want to keep the same taxation area they had for the grant and aid. That's why it is the way it is. Yeah, and the price is quite low. So they're happy with that, and I'm happy to oblige them so they can start collecting funds and they can start stockpiling for bigger projects. Because right now they have to apply every year and spend it every year, so they can't do big projects. That's where we're at. Hopefully that explains things.
Thank you. I have a couple questions for staff. So is this different than the Sprout Lake parcel tax that was approved many years ago? Because Sprout Lake can, it's for $12,000 only. They would like that increase to at least 25,000. Because $12,000 does not cover the cost, the expenses of the hall for insurance and all of their expenses. But also, it was created so that it didn't have to be
accepted every year had to be applied for every year. So is that the same for Cherry Creek? Just wondering if the Sprout Lake Hall became self-sustaining and had rentals, you know, that they didn't need this grant any further. Could they also just say ask for half of it or a certain amount rather than the full amount? Thanks.
I think I'd want to take that one back and run through at a deeper level when we're talking about, because Sprout Lake does have the two grant and aid, I'll put in quotes, services. So I think we can definitely take that back and bring you back a more wholesome response.
Thank you. And as far as Cherry Creek goes, so this grant would be a parcel tax, I'm assuming, and that, no, okay. So that it is very different than the Sprout Lake parcel tax. Okay. I'm just wondering, would there be an opportunity then to, I wouldn't say it's double dipping, but to have another grant made so that they could borrow more money for a project, like a playground or a roof or a whatever. Thanks.
So my understanding is that this is not a replacement of the existing Cherry Creek grant and aid. So that existing service would still exist, and it would be at the direction of the director and or the board to allocate that budget accordingly.
Okay, great. Thank you. Director Boyko.
Yes, thank you through the chair. So just to be clear, we're still going to have a referendum and people are going to still pick on or be able to vote on this in the election in October 17th or whatever. And at the same time, they see the cost for this referendum drop down to $3,000 from, what was it, $15,000 before? What are we changing to get those cost savings?
Yeah.
So from the beginning, like when this was presented as a proposed initiative case and right through all the reports, we did indicate that the amount was $3,000. And the reason for that cost, because it's not as much as like previous referendums, is because we are holding it in conjunction with the general local election. So the costs are more so associated with the ballot printing and those costs.
Perfect. Thank you for the clarification.
Is there any further questions? Seeing none, Director Sparrow, would you like to make a motion?
Sure, I'll do that. I will make the motion that the Alberni Clayoquot District Board of Directors rescind third reading of bylaw cited as Cherry Creek Community Recreational Commission Grant Service Establishing Bylaw number E10692026.
Seconder, Director Solda. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Carries. Thank you.
Yes.
Second reading?
No, the Alberni Clayoquot District Board of Directors give third reading to bylaw cited as Cherry Creek Community Recreation Commission Grant Service Establishment Bylaw number E10692026 with the following amendments. Removing B, fees and charges imposed under the Local Government Act from Section 5 cost recovery. Replacing Section 6 maximum requisition with, in accordance with the Local Government Act, the maximum amount that may be requested annually for the service shall not exceed $25,000 or 0.0408 per thousand of net taxable value of land improvements, whichever is greater.
Seconder, Director Solda. Any questions? Saying none. All in favor? Opposed? Carries. Thank you. That's it. We can call Chair back.
Thank you, Director Cote. Next, we have the log train trail regulation bylaw. Michael, are you here? There you are.
Yep.
Please go ahead, Michael.
Thank you. Through the chair. So this regulation bylaw is before the board for adoption following the first, second, and third readings, which occurred at the board meeting on June 24th. There's been no amendments to the bylaw, and this bylaw establishes the regulatory framework for the Log Train Trail and supports the implementation of the license of occupation, which is also before the board today, coming up next. So staff recommend adoption, and I'm happy to answer any questions here.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the directors? Director Roth and Director Piko.
Thank you. I appreciate the work staff had put into the Log Train Trail issue. However, my concern is with the long-term financial risk, future maintenance obligations, limited local control, and uncertainty surrounding future costs. Until there are stronger protections for taxpayers and greater certainty regarding the long-term financial implications, I'm unable to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Boyko, please go ahead.
Thank you. I echo the concerns of Director Roth. And at the same time, I want this to motorize and respect the wishes of the people to make this happen. So I am going to support this, and it's going to be a good trial, and it's going to be something to say we can have mixed use, and what's actually all we're doing is just saying what's happening out there already. We're just going to allow it to keep happening. And hopefully we can share that this can happen, and it will be extended throughout the whole rest of the Log Train Trail moving forward in the next 18 months. We can show that we're doing this and everything's going good. I got 3 questions though, and we got 3 items on the agenda here, and it all wraps into one topic. So I'll just go through them all here, but let's talk about enforcement. Is it going to be active or complaint based? Question 1.
Michael?
Thank you. So the enforcement for this is complaint based, and it's outlined in the regulation bylaw there. We don't have, staff allocation for active enforcement for this year. If this board would like to change that in future years, they'd have to do it through the to an amendment to the regulation bylaw, and allocating staff time during the financial plan process.
No, that's perfect. I think that's what everybody wants to have. And as long as we have a simple way of making that happen, that will be appreciated. Question number 2. Now that we're going to block every access in Cherry Creek with this, which is going to upset a lot of people, how are you going to make a gate that you can get a horse through, but you block a motorbike? I'd like to see the design on that. What is the plan for that?
Michael?
Thank you. Designing isn't complete yet. The plan is to get it approved and then follow up with a detailed design for how that would look. It's been done before. We're not the first person to try this, so learn from other people's successes and create our own detailed design that's suitable for this trail. Perfect.
And finally, it's not really a question, it's a good statement that we're not planning on adding any parking areas, and the province has deemed that what exists out there is already sufficient, and it's what people have been using for decades and looking after the trail themselves, and I expect that to continue moving forward. So let's make this happen, and at the same time realize that we're going to keep it as natural as possible. People want it as stage 4, not a lot of fancy stuff. We're not paving this thing, we're not putting benches on it, we're not making it signage all over the place, and at the same time keep it simple. We're not going to go spend $750,000 replacing all the bridges and all that, and that's not what the people want. So let's make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Director Sparrow?
And now for the other side of the conversation. I'm looking through the regulation bylaw on the license of occupation, and I noticed that when you look through it and you're looking at license of occupation, I think it's on page 155, I think it is. Anyway.
Director Sparrow, do you want to wait till we get to that section?
Well, they sort of combine together.
Okay,
that's why I'm
go
saying
ahead,
that. Is that if you look on that one from the license of occupation, it tells you that in their permitted uses that Cherry Creek will have theirs non-motorized and Beaufort will have theirs motorized. which is where we have designated the break. The break is 7.9K, which is in the bylaw. So I understand that they're going to be combined together, but I have to assume, and I'm hoping from staff, that the bylaw is going to take precedent over the license of occupation. And if so, where in the bylaw does it say that the bylaw has precedent over the license of occupation when it comes to where the break between motorized and non-motorized is? Can somebody answer that for me, please?
Do you have a response, Michael?
I do, thank you. So this, I'd say that the license of occupation is the agreement with the province, and it doesn't specifically identify the transition location in the license of occupation. You're right that it does identify Cherry Creek as being non-motorized and Beaufort being motorized, as well as non-motorized. But it doesn't identify a specific location. So it works in conjunction with the schedule mapping and the regulation bylaw, and the regulation bylaw sets the exact transition location, which has been identified as the McLean Mill access point. So one doesn't take precedence over the other. The province is just saying that, you know, it's up to us to administer and manage the trail, and those are allowable uses under the license of occupation, without specifying, you know, a transition location. So that's done by the regulation bylaw. So it's not that they're conflicting, it's just that they support each other. And the transition point is addressed in the regulation bylaw, but it's not specifically addressed in the license of occupation.
Okay, then can I make a motion that we say the regulatory bylaw has precedence over the license of occupation for reasons of this transitional phase, so we don't get confused in future? Because right now in the future, if you use license of occupation, it says one spot and the bylaw says another. So if we put a motion in place that says this takes precedent, we will resolve that issue. Can we do that? Can I make that motion?
Can you make that motion? Does that make sense?
Yes, but if you could please send us the wording for the resolution that you.
Okay, I make a motion that the regulatory bylaw has precedence over the license of occupation in regards to the area as described. Where are we here? There we go. Article 6, other vehicles and equipment, section log train trail, where the delineation is part 6, number 19.
Mike has his hand up.
I was just going to recommend if it's about where the regional district is going or how they're going to enforce, is just a motion that says the ACRD will enforce the motorized versus non-motorized portions of the log train trail at, if it's kilometers, 7.5 or 7.9 under the ACRD regulation bylaw. I don't know what the number is off the top of my head. So I think the motion should be more about directing the enforcement, as opposed to, it's not about precedent, but just so that what you're wanting is, you want it clear that the ACRD is going to enforce the non-motorized portion over the first 7.9 kilometers of the log train trail. Is that correct?
That's part of it. The other part of it, in the license of occupation, it has a different, it says the electoral boundary pretty well, which is a different area than what we have said on this board. So how do we get people to understand that the bylaw has precedent over the license of occupation, stop confusion 15 years from now, is the question.
So I think what Mike is referring to, so we can't really identify that through resolution, what takes precedence, because that just naturally happens through legislation. So we would have to follow what legislation, but if we change the resolution to focus on the enforcement, that would be more appropriate.
Okay, but yeah, that's what we have to do, but I don't want to come back in 5 years and somebody says, no, it should be here because the license of occupation says here it is, and our bylaw says here it is. So as long as we understand now and put something in place saying this has precedent over that, we'll stop the confusion in years to come, is what I'm asking.
Okay, Michael has his hand up. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, I think if I can suggest a resolution here would be to amend the definition in question just to provide more clarity. where the license of occupation, doesn't reference the electoral area boundary, and leave it to the regulation bylaw to identify that transition location.
Would that be okay with you, Director Sparrow, if you put it into the next motion?
Whatever makes it work at the end of the day, sure.
Okay.
I got some more, but I'll keep going. Okay.
Did you have more to add?
Well, I got lots more to add, but there are hands up, so you can come back around if you want.
Okay. Director Roth, then Director Boyko. Please go ahead, Director Roth.
I was just going to say that a bylaw would trump the license. You can't have the license without the bylaw. So whatever the bylaw is what goes. Thanks.
Is that correct, Mike?
Yes.
Thank you. Director Boyko, please go ahead.
I think we're going in circles here, and let's see how this is going to go. We're planning on moving this away from the electoral area boundary just because there's no access point. People can ride down the trail, turn around and come back. If it becomes a problem, then we can act on it. Just make it so that this is a enforcement thing, and let's move on with our lives, please. Thank you.
Director Sparrow.
Sure, that works for that one. A few other things I went reading through the license of occupation. It talks about safety and how to make it safe and inspection reports. So we don't really do inspection reports, but this new one coming out says we do. So my suggestion, and hopefully I get through a motion, is that we can do triennial reports on the condition of the log train trail, so we have better understanding as a board as to what the condition is and how we can keep it up, so we don't run into a situation where we end up with a big bill in 15 years from now because things deteriorated so badly. Right now we have a few bridges that are in disrepair and need to be fixed right now, but if we had a report over the years, we'd know that we should put money aside for this. So I would like to make a recommendation that we put in this bylaw that we do triennial reports on the log train trail, not in depth, just so we know the condition of it and we have understanding of what the costing is going to be in the future and how we can employ volunteers to keep the trail up to the standard that we need to keep it up to.
Director Solda.
I just have a quick question. Do we do asset management? I can't remember if we do it here. So would these bridges not fall under, or any repairs fall under asset management?
We did have a report on bridges. Can you add to that, Michael?
Thank you. So yeah, along with the management plan that was prepared a couple of years ago, we did a condition assessment on the bridges, and last year there was a linear asset condition assessment that looked at these bridges as well. So we have information about the bridges. A report was brought forward to the board, I think it was in December, and at that time the board made a motion to address the license of occupation update prior to going back and looking at that bridge report. So that's the goal next, to once we get this license of occupation in place, we will take a closer look at the bridges as per board direction.
Please go ahead, Director Solda.
Thank you. Just to follow up, just a quick comment. I really believe in asset management and where the taxpayers get little amounts now rather than the big chunk at the end. So totally think that's really important.
Director Boyko.
Thank you. I'm just questioning the need for a report when we have a report on the things. Are we just making work to make work for a particular trail, not every trail? We don't do asset and we don't do reports on the status of every park, every trail. Why is it being suggested we do this of this one particular trail at this point? I don't think this is relevant and a waste of taxpayers' money to go back and forth several times. Thank you.
Director Sparrow.
Thank you. I understand what we said, but if we do triennial reports, we'll have an idea of the condition and we'll be able to employ the volunteers to get the drain. It says we have to keep the drainage up, and we know at kilometer 6 right now, the trail is now the drainage point. The ditch has been plugged, the water's going down the log train trail, and it's ankle deep because I know I've walked it. So we have to find a way of being able to get a report so we know how we can employ the volunteers and get them into a condition where this trail does not deteriorate to a point where it's not usable. I understand the cost effectiveness of it, but we haven't really done any sort of reporting over the years on a regular basis. So that's why I think it's important to do it like this, so we have an understanding. And when the boards start coming through, they know exactly what the condition of this trail is, because it will be heavily used. So that's why I'm asking for this.
Do you have any comments on that, Michael?
I'd say that, we are looking at our level of service program, and I think that, we're anticipating bringing forward a report for Parks level of service as a whole, and that's something that we can, loop into that report when we focus on Log Train Trail.
Okay, so if Michael has plans to do that, are you okay with that, Director Sparrow?
Sure. This is obviously a highly controversial trail, and it's going to get a lot of usage, so we have to keep it up to a condition that is acceptable to all parties. So if we can find a way of looping it in so it is, like I said, every 3 years, it'd be fine. So we have an idea, so we don't run into the situation now we have the bridges to replace and the cost is getting high, and we get a lot of pushback from the people. Sure.
Thank you. Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor to adopt the Log Train Trail Regional Park Regulation Bylaw. It's been moved and seconded. So any final questions or comments? All in favor, Dr. Boyko? Oh,
Have we moved and seconded it? Because I don't think we
was it
have.
moved in second? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was. Would anybody like to
But
make?
I'll make the motion to move it because the people want this thing motorized. Thank you.
Okay, motion has been moved. Do we have a seconder? Moved by Director Boyko and second by Director Cote. Any final questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. And now next is the Log Train Trail License of Occupation. Michael, please go ahead.
Thank you. So we've already touched on some of this stuff already, but I'll just run through a quick overview of this report. So at the June 24th Committee of the Whole meeting, the committee reviewed the draft license of occupation and requested clarification from the ministry. Since that meeting, staff received written clarification from the Ministry of Transportation, which is attached to the report. And I'll provide a quick summary of that conversation. So there's no immediate requirement for additional parking. The ACRD would be responsible for maintaining infrastructure that supports trail use within the license area. The reference to the Maybell parking lot has been removed from the agreement, and the province advised that at any of end-of-term restoration and infrastructure removal requirements would need to be determined at the time. And the focus of the ministry would be maintaining public safety. So changes to the license. There's only 2 changes since it was presented to the Cal meeting. That's Schedule A mapping was replaced to accurately reflect the split use trail model, and references to the Maybell parking lot have all been removed. So implementation is, if approved, staff will begin implementation of the split use framework. The first work will be focused on public communication as per the communication plan that was presented previously, signage installation and access management at designated locations. Implementation is anticipated to begin this summer. And in closing, we're recommending approval of the license of occupation and authorization to proceed with the implementation. Happy to answer questions on this one.
Thank you, Michael. Director Boyko, please go ahead.
Thank you. My question is just about the Maybell Street parking. If we're restricting that you can't bring your quad or your motorbike over there, but people just want to park there and walk on the trail, is that a problem? Like, I'm just looking at, it's all at either a crown land or easement right to the trail. Is there a problem with that parking lot right there right now?
Well, currently, the ACRD hasn't historically held a license or management of that area. So the ministry has received complaints from neighbors about the parking there and thought it was a good idea to try to bring the ACRD in to manage it. And we thought, it's not connected to the ACRD Log Train Trail lease section, so we shouldn't be managing that trail under this lease.
All right. We're not going to go fill it in and make it not a parking lot or something silly, right? Because it is on crown land.
The ACRD according to this, doesn't have an interest in managing it. So it's up to the Ministry of Transportation to manage as they see fit.
Perfect. The one thing, my other comment is I am happy with the response from the province, and let's make this happen. At the same time, that identifying that the existing parking is sufficient is a good way to go. We're not going to be looking to build $500,000 parking lots or anything silly moving forward. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Director Sparrow.
Thank you. It says they need $5 million liability. Is that correct? And how are we going to enforce that?
Michael.
So we'll provide public communications about what the expectations are for motorized users, including insurance for registration. There are plenty of packages that ICBC provides, and cheaper if you're part of a club. And enforcement is by complaint, or if we're investigating an incident, we would check it, but we wouldn't be actively or proactively checking for that.
Thank you. So if there was an incident where a person died out there with no insurance, would we be liable because we didn't follow our procedures in the license of occupation?
I'd say that. Oh, sorry. I'd say that this regulation bylaw and license of occupation does a better job of protecting our risk and liability because we've established the standard that we expect. And if people don't follow that standard, we have a defense that, this is our process. But maybe Shane or somebody else can provide more information on that too.
Anything else, Director Sparrow? Okay. Director Beckett, then Director Cote. Please go ahead, Director Beckett.
Thank you. I don't confess to be an expert in this trail at all. But through the chair to Michael, I did receive an email from Keith Whiten regarding his concern about the mapping not being consistent with the province's license of occupation. And I know we've had some earlier discussion that Director Sparrow brought up. And I believe that you received that correspondence from Mr. Whitten. Can you comment on that, please, and provide some clarification for me? Because again, I'm struggling with this one.
Thank you, Director Beckett. Michael, please go ahead.
Thank you. I think this is the same topic that Director Sparrow had brought up previously, where the license of occupation is an agreement with the province that identifies the trail corridor and expected uses within the corridor, while the regulation bylaw identifies the specific transition points, and they don't necessarily match up 100% because our ability to manage the trail is set by the regulation bylaw, and not by the license of occupation for where the transition point would be. So I think it's as is, okay, and defensible. I do think that it could provide some more clarity with the small adjustment to the license of occupation to remove a reference to the electoral area boundary.
Madam Chair, thank you for indulging me. Again, I apologize. Just not completely understanding the legalities of that. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Director Beckett. Director Cote.
Thank you. Liabilities on this trail, we are responsible for managing. So if we take measures like signage, that would be a measure to help out with our liability. Also, to manage the non-motorized area, similar to Sprout Lake trails, we have rocks in place that are positioned tight enough so that motorized vehicles cannot pass through, but yet bicycles, strollers, wheelchairs, they can all make it through. But you need to be able to have signage to recommend that this is a pinch area, I guess, so that nobody drives into it. but signage is key here for our liability, and then we can move ahead. So I guess my question would be is, to Michael would be, through the chair, are we ready to start putting signage up as soon as we pass these bylaws? Thanks.
Michael?
Thank you. So the ACRD does have a signage design guide that was approved by the board a few years ago. So we can put up signage fairly quickly until it's passed. You know, the ACRD didn't have authority to provide funds for printing signs, so we don't have any signs printed, but it can be done pretty shortly with direction of the board.
Thank you, Director Boyko.
Thank you. Regarding liability, if someone hurts themselves out there, we're already liable right now. This is giving some guidance to make it safer for people that will follow themselves to move forward. One of the things about talking with people that live close to the trail, and Keith Whiting's one of them, there is, I think they're more involved with the land use right at Desmond Road, that kind of area, where the trail says it goes right on along the easement right through 3 properties. And that's where it gets very controversial, because the people on those properties have taken over those easements when the trail should be going right through there and clearly identified. So moving forward, when we show that this will be a great place and it works well for multimodal, then that will have to be looked up again when we look to expand this potentially in the future to include all the Cherry Creek and the entire trail. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Sparrow.
Thank you. A few comments about that. First of all, it's a whole neighborhood, and they're a little tired at 2 a.m. The guys going down there in their quads, the stereos going and blaring and driving up and down the roads. So it's not just 3 houses, it's a whole neighborhood. So we'll talk about that in the future and how that's going to work. One other comment I want to make is about benches. There is a bench out Cherry Creek. It's has been there a long time. It's just in disrepair now, but hopefully in the future, if we get this passed, we can talk about benches. It's on the Mark Mosier bench, and it was up there, and there was a plaque on there, and the plaque is gone now, obviously, to dedicate when he used to work on the Log Train Trail, and the bench was there from his family. So there are benches on that trail. Hopefully one day we can put that bench back on that walking path so we can enjoy the Cherry Creek in quiet and not with the quads flying up and down. Thank you.
I love that idea of memorial benches on that trail. I think that's a great idea. Director Boyko.
Perfect. Thank you, Chair. I don't think anyone else has any more comments. It's very clear that people want to keep this as natural as possible. And when we had the feedback from, I think we had total 1,200 people that we're not looking to pave it, put a lot of benches up there and that kind of thing. But at the same time, I'm ready to make a motion to move this forward, that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors approved license of occupation between the province of BC and Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District for the Log Train Trail Corridor for a 5-year term to June 30th, 2031.
Would anyone like to second that motion? Moved by Director Boyko, seconded by Director Ross. Any final questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Would you like to read the next motion as well, Director Boyko?
With pleasure. Let's do what the people want. I'll make a motion that the ACRD Board of Directors direct staff to implement the transition Log Train Trail Corridor to multimodal recreational trail in accordance with license of occupation, including measures to prohibit unauthorized motorized vehicle access at designated non-motorized access points along the corridor.
Moved by Director Boyko, second by Director Roth. Any final questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Michael, I just want to thank you for all of your hard work and all the hours that you spent on this file. It's been a very difficult file and you've done a terrific job. Thank you very much. Next, we have bylaw amendments to tipping fees for mattresses at Alberni Valley Sort and Go Center, bylaw R1029, and West Coast Landfill bylaw R1033. Tanya, please go ahead.
Thank you. This item is approval of the bylaw amendments for tipping fees for mattresses at Alberni Sort and Go and West Coast. Operating and processing costs for mattress and box spring collection have been increasing To ensure adequate program services and cost recovery, rate increases are recommended as follows. For mattresses and box springs at Albany Valley Sort and Go Center, an increase from $23 per unit to $27 per unit, including a $2 administration fee to cover costs associated with receiving and storage of mattresses, contract management, and general oversight of the program. And for residential mattresses and box springs at West Coast Landfill, an increase from $23 per mattress or box spring to $30 per unit, including the $2 administration fee. The recommended mattress and box spring tipping fee increase is higher at the West Coast Landfill because of the remote nature of the facility. There's increases to fuel costs, vehicle wear and tear, and staff time needed to retrieve the mattresses at the West Coast Landfill. Additionally, out on the West Coast, it's been challenging to keep up with bulk drop-offs from the commercial sector, typically associated with resorts switching over their mattresses all at once. So rate increases are recommended for mattresses and box springs to increase to $50 per unit for mattresses coming from commercial properties. The intent behind the higher commercial rate is to reduce bulk mattress drop-offs from the resorts, and the commercial sector will be informed of the increase to the $50 per mattress. And in addition, staff has spoken with INEO, the Recycle Matters program that does the mattress pickups and processing, and they're willing to continue to provide that direct service, basically eliminating the landfill as a drop-off area. They would provide that direct service if the resorts and commercial properties contact them directly. The tipping fees would be effective October 1st, 2026, after development and implementation of the communications plan. Thank you.
Director Boyko, then Director Solda. Please go ahead, Director Boyko.
Thank you very much. This seems like a small dollar increase, but it's actually a 17% increase. That is a huge amount of increase to do this. Are our costs increasing that much that we need to recover this? Because recycling mattresses, as opposed to someone burning them in their yard and throwing them in the bush, is a good thing. We should be encouraging it.
Yeah.
So that's what I question is in every time we come up with tipping fee increases, it's not 2% or 3% like CPI. It's 10, 15, 20%. And this one's 17.4%. So I want to examine how we're doing our costs and see if we're getting value for money, because I want to have mattresses go there. I don't want them burned in someone's backyard or thrown in the bush. And every time we do this, you're going to see more of that happen. Thank you.
Yeah, I think what's notable here is there's kind of two issues going on with the mattress program. The first is that as far as transportation and long-term planning for the program, as is common knowledge, inflation, fuel prices have gone way up. And also the Recycle Matters program has been dealing with a truck that's broken down here and there, creating sort of these neck points in pickup services and whatnot. So they need to do the long-term planning for the transport of the materials. And also, even if they could pick up all the mattresses at once, there's sort of a bottleneck also at the warehouse where they only have space for so much mattresses. So when we're getting a bunch of bulk drop-offs, they can't just take them all at once. They have to catch up. So if they had more people and more resources to dismantle the mattresses, then they could potentially provide a service that's keeping up with the need. The proposed increase would actually put our prices sort of on par with other regional landfills. Nanaimo is at $25 per mattress. Cowichan Valley is $32. So that's my comment on that. It's right there aligned with other fees at other landfills.
No, I understand. Just as a follow-up, Chair, but I think that if we're going to penalize people by charging them more because the program is successful, I think we need to examine how we're doing things, because you want to get more mattresses and become more efficient like a business would, and not think like a government, like I got to raise prices and do things differently just because I have a temporary truck down and prices of fuel have gone up, which has actually come back down now, and inflation's back around 2.8% in the last week. So the knee-jerk reaction of raising prices is, I think, problematic. Are we taking any of this money for mattresses and putting it in any other part of the budget? Or is mattress money only for mattresses and doing it that way?
Currently, the mattress money is a direct turnaround to the Recycle Matters program. So we get 23, we give them 23 per mattress. The proposal is to include a $2 tipping fee to cover contract management, holding of the mattresses, et cetera, because there is a lot going into the program.
So there is money taken from that $4 increase to pay for staff costs, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
And then a couple comments on the pricing here. A couple other thoughts. Originally, this was going to be included as an EPR program through Recycle BC, but they determined that the cost to recycle mattresses is $75 per mattress, so they took it off for reasons of affordability for BC residents. So this INEO, who runs the Recycle Matters program, they're running a pretty scrappy program that's saving huge amounts of landfill space for us. Since inception of the program in 2019, they've saved about 13,000 cubic meters of landfill airspace for us. So often recycling of mattresses is significantly less than the airspace value that they consume when we put them in the landfill.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tanya. Director Solda, then Director Steer. Please go ahead, Director Solda.
Thank you. Something on the same lines as Director Boyko there. So I know we've had in the city, we've had some bulk mattresses, and interesting enough, somebody the next day went and tried to take a mattress to the landfill and was told they had no room. So take it back. And where I'm going with this thought is, what about residents being at a lesser price? And I'm talking about people who have their homes and stuff like that, comparing to a bulk, like a hotel redoing all their rooms and stuff like that, and they're charged a little more, where residents is charged a little less, because we know that people do take their mattresses and just dump them if they, at times. And I've seen that in the bush and stuff like that. So was that in consideration at all? And I'm just kind of curious to know, because there's people out there who can't necessarily afford to take their mattresses there, and where it's a little different for hotels and stuff like that.
Do you have a response to that, Tanya?
Yeah, only that in the Alberni Valley, we just don't have the same significant challenges as we do out on the West Coast right now. We have been experiencing these mass drop-offs from West Coast resorts that we just aren't experiencing in the same way in Alberni Valley. Also, we're much closer into the mattress facility here. So whether it's commercial or residential coming in, our experience at the Alberni Valley landfill is that we've been able to store them for the most part adequately, and then they've moved into the dismantling much easier. There was a point this year where the landfill did run out of space. INEO's truck broke down and they had a special part they were waiting for. But we did iron that out pretty quickly, and we started taking mattresses the next day. We came up with a contingency plan. So.
Thank you. Director Steer, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, through the chair. Just a couple of comments. Thank you, Tanya, for this. And I want to point out, maybe for Director Boyko's sake, in this particular case, when the BC Advancing Recycling in BC, the Extended Producer Responsibility, the EPR program, the province removed mattresses from that last year in 2025 because of the cost. And that cost would have been borne by the producer. And unfortunately, what they're now doing is it's relying on us as a landfill to be bringing that up. So that's one of the big issues that's coming. It was a big mistake by the government to remove mattresses from that program. And we have already made advances in lobbying the government to include those back into the EPR program. So that's a huge thing. And I think we should continue that lobbying effort, and it has come up at UBSM as well, and that is an opportunity for us once again to speak to this matter, because you're right, we don't want to incur costs, raise tipping fees that are unnecessary. But in this case, it's a social enterprise that is doing the work at an incredible deal to the taxpayer of our Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District. And I would say that Tanya is right. One of the issues we have on the West Coast is, of course, we have large resorts that do turn over those mattresses, and they are proposed to be charged a higher rate as opposed to residents. So that is once again incorporating the fact that they are incurring costs to us. We are incurring costs from those resorts. And they're more than happy, I can tell you, to incur that cost, because they're not going to go and burn them into the bush. I can tell you that. So that being said, I would like to support the motion as presented here, unless there are further comments.
Director Steer, can we do the Port Alberni, Alberni Valley EAs first, and then I'll call on you to do the Tofino, Yuku, Long Beach bylaws,
Absolutely.
if that
Yeah.
works? Thank you. Did you have your hand up, Director Solda? Okay. Did Director Boyko?
I'll do the motions if you want, Chair.
Please go ahead. Oh, Director Sparrow, sorry, he had his hand up first.
Thank you for that. I'm going to echo a little bit that Director Solda said about the fact that on the West Coast, there's two rates here, one for the residentials and one for the commercial. And then in this valley, there isn't one, so only one rate for both of them. And we know that most of our landfill is ICI. So if we want to actually promote the lower use of ICI in our landfill, wouldn't it be that doing what the West Coast is doing and saying if you are a hotel or something and you want to put your mattress in the landfill, it's going to cost you more? Director Steer said that the West Coast is more than happy to do that. So we could actually do a benefit if that was something we look forward to in the future.
Do you have a comment, Tanya?
Only that we can certainly look into that and bring that back if that's desired.
We don't have as many resorts and hotels in Port Alberni, though, as they do on the West Coast. Okay, Director Boyko.
I would support that amendment to this motion. If we want to do that right now, and whatever staff's going to do to identify resorts in the West Coast, we can also do in town.
Is that amenable to you, Tanya, as a staff person?
Yeah, sure.
Did anyone want to start reading the motions? Director Boyko, please go ahead.
I'll make a motion that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give first reading to bylaw R1029-10 amendment, Alberni Valley landfill tipping fee and regulation bylaw 2026.
Moved by Director Boyko, seconded by Director Solda. Any final questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. This is first four motions is for Port Alberni, Alberni Valley EAs only. Please go ahead for second reading, Director Boyko.
So, Chair, if I want to do that amendment to reflect the ICI mattresses at a higher rate, can we do that right now?
Yes.
So I'll make a motion that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors direct staff to amend bylaw R1029-10, Alberni Valley landfill tipping fee and regulation bylaw 2026, to have a higher rate, and I'm going to say $45 per mattress for ICI patrons in the Alberni Valley. That's a step down from the West Coast one, similar to what they're paying to reflect the reduced trucking involved.
Okay, moved by Director Boyko, seconded by Director Solda. Director Johnson, you have your hand up.
I just have a question on the voting. It does say Port Alberni and Alberni Valley EAs weighted. So it sounds like to me we still vote. We just don't have as many votes. Is
Cynthia?
So this is members of our participants of the service. So maybe if Shane, could you clarify which Alberni Valley EAs are in the service?
Yeah, so that includes all of the EAs for Beaufort, Beaver Creek, Cherry Creek, Sprout Lake. And Banfield goes into the AV service. And then the West Coast is electoral area C. And then districts as well in each of those.
Thank you. Okay, Director Cote?
What about Tashat and Huchesset?
That they're not members of the board.
Is there any consultation?
Yes, so we do have regular meetings with them, but this is generally an operational level of service, so we haven't done consultation on this.
Dr. Cote?
I just wondered because we do provide the service of the landfill to these First Nations, even though they're not on the board. And the landfill is in Shot and Huchesset lands overlapping. Thanks.
Jenny?
And, further to that, I should say, we do have a landfill working group. We have a tipping fee waiver agreement. And I probably should be saying that for the public record. So yes. So we do have agreements and we work closely with them. Sorry. Just as a voting issue, they don't have yeah.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay, any final questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Director Boyko, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I'll make a motion that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give second reading to bylaw R1029-10 amendment, Alberni Valley landfill tipping fee and regulation bylaw 2026.
Sorry, did I hear second reading or third reading?
Second reading.
Okay, it's third reading.
Well, we just voted on the amendment, did we not?
The amendment is included in second reading.
Perfect.
Okay, so
I'll say that again then.
thank you.
Make a motion that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give third reading to bylaw R1029-10 amendment, that the Alberni Valley landfill tipping fee and regulation bylaw 2026.
Moved by Director Boyko. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Director Solda. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. And please go ahead, Director Boyko.
Thank you, Chair. I'll make a motion that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors adopt bylaw R1029-10 amendment, Alberni Valley landfill tipping fee and regulation bylaw 2026.
Moved by Director Boyko, seconded by Director Solda. Any final questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, next is for Tofino, Ukiah, and Long Beach. Director Steer, would you like to make the motions?
Well, I'll move that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give first reading to bylaw R1033-11 amendment, West Coast landfill tipping fee and regulation bylaw 2026.
Moved by Director Steer, seconded by Director McEwen. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried.
Move second reading.
Moved by Director Steer, seconded by Director McEwen. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried.
Move third reading.
Moved by Director Steer, seconded by Director Siga. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried.
And I'll move that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors adopt bylaw R1033-11 amendment, West Coast landfill tipping fee and regulation bylaw 2026.
Moved by Director Steer, seconded by Director McEwen. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, everyone. Next, we have the Agriculture Advisory Committee Terms of Reference Update. Kylie, please go ahead.
Thank you. So the Agricultural Advisory Committee has undertaken a process to update their terms of reference. The current terms of reference have been in place since the inception of the AAC and require updating to bring them into alignment with the ACRD procedures bylaw, A1093, which was adopted in April of 2026. Additionally, these proposed changes would reflect a resolution passed by the City of Port Alberni's Council in May of 2026 to forward all ALC applications made on ALR lands within the city limits to the AAC for discussion. So as a result, sort of the two biggest changes that we're seeing within this is that all ALC applications, including those on ALR land within the City of Port Alberni, will come to the AAC for discussion and recommendation, and then decisions on whether those application and questions would be forwarded onto the ALC would remain with either the board for ALR land within the ACRD or the council within city limits. Secondly, it also accounts for the removal of committee functions that are now part of the Agricultural Development Committee's terms of reference to remove overlap between those two committees. So the draft AAC terms of reference were presented to the Agricultural Advisory Committee on June 15th, and the committee voted unanimously to recommend to the ACRD Board of Directors to amend the terms of reference as presented. So happy to take any questions.
Thank you kindly. Director Boyko, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. As the district rep on this committee, I'll make forward the motion that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors amend the Agricultural Advisory Committee terms of reference as presented. Thank you.
Moved by Director Boyko, seconded by Director Roth. Is there any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Next is planning matters, and this is for electoral area directors only. And Alex is not here today, so Mike will be speaking to these three topics. First, we have the temporary use permit TUP 26002 448 Seaboard Road, 452 Seaboard Road, 200 Binnacle Road in Banfield. Mike, please go ahead.
Thank you. Just for the director's information, this is the application that the three pieces of correspondence that came in late and are attached to the agenda relate to. So this is a temporary use permit, and I do just want to start by noting that that a temporary use permit is temporary and has some conditions built in that address some of the comments that were raised by the members of the public, and that it addresses the maximum number of campsites, the Ministry of Transportation and Transit access requirements, quiet time between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m., on-site parking only. Parking in Banfield is a big issue, and the temporary use permit requires all parking related to this development to be on site with no road parking. A caretaker must be available to attend within 20 minutes, which is something regularly included into temporary use permits that the ACRD issues. So I wanted to touch on some of that, and then the existing access as shown on Hull Road on your mapping. So Hull Road, the access that is used is an easement. Rather, there is some road dedication that is not constructed, and it's in a section where it would come into Banfield Road. Really, it's on a hill and is not as safe. So this easement allows access to the subject properties, and it's registered, I understand from the report. So the Hull Road access, the easement I was referring to, will bring all campers to 448 Seaboard Road. This is the Ostrom's Gas Bar and Marina, to check in at camper registration, and will provide for parking for boats and trailers on this site on Seaboard Road, as well as access. There's be an access road before entering the lower portion of the campground at 452 Seaboard Road. Though for those RVs that are heading to the upper portion, they will go back onto Banfield Road and access the upper campground on a dedicated area that is accessed through 200 Binnacle Road, and there's been a recent access improvements to that area. So the property owner has been granted a commercial access permit from the Ministry of Transportation for the 200 Binnacle Road access point, and that is sort of the information I have to present, and I'm happy to answer any questions the board has.
Thank you. Is there any questions for Mike? Director Beckett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. They're not questions, they're comments, and I was pleased that we did get some public feedback. I think Mike has done an excellent job responding, to those questions. I did have an opportunity to discuss the community's concerns. Mike's touched on the TUP, and from my understanding in our discussions, there is a potential benefit to the community to have a TUP as opposed to having established a bylaw for applicable zoning, in that it does give the ACRD some flexibility and discretion if there were issues, if there was noise or other concerns that came up during the period of a TUP, and then certainly, Mike can jump in at any point in time. So that's one thing. The commercial access, which is partway down the hill, certainly has been identified as a concern. But again, my understanding is that it is going to be a right turnout only. So that's going to alleviate some of the concerns that we had with that egress, as opposed to it being both an access and a egress. And the other thing I wanted to address was one of our neighbors had concerns about noise and challenges, and recognizing that with the road improvements that we've seen over the last 2 or 3 years, we are seeing more tourism, and the issue of safety, public safety, relating to policing, by law enforcement, et cetera, those are things that we can have a discussion as we look at renewing our OCP, starting next year. So it's very timely that our community will be able to have those discussions. So with those comments, Madam Chair, and there may be others that want to speak to this, I will make the motion that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors issues temporary use permit TUP 26002, subject to completion of all technical requirements and completion with conditions of use identified within TUP 26002.
Moved by Director Boyko, or Director Beckett, and Director Boyko, you had your hand up. Are you second, or do you have a comment?
I'll second, then I'll have a comment after that.
Please go ahead.
So I got 2 comments here, Chair. So there seems to be a prevalence of using TUPs by the HFN group, and we're getting more and more of these, like they're every month right now. Why are we not getting people to follow the normal process? Is it just easier and we just say, yep, go ahead, as opposed to rezoning and doing things properly? So as a board, we need to think about that, as why we're constantly getting TUPs from one particular group, as opposed to them doing things what we would say properly, like rezoning and doing things that way. So first question, and when you look at the map, they have a public day use area. And my question is, why is it in the most hard to access point in the property? Are we just putting a day use area to say there is one, and we expect no public to use it because it's way at the end of the road, and I don't even think you can drive to it, so you're limiting accessibility to anybody that's handicapped? So what's the point of even having it there if it's the hardest point to access? Thank you. That'd be a question to Mike, actually, to see what's happening with that. Is it a requirement to have that and we just put it in there at the end? Or what's the point of it? Thank you.
Mike, can you speak to rezoning versus the temporary use permit in this case?
Certainly. So temporary use permits are permitted under the Local Government Act, and when they're also allowed in the OCP. So that's something that's contemplated. And I will sort of reference back to Director Beckett's comments around the benefits of a temporary use permit, or how they vary. So they are time limited. In this case, for 3 years with an option to renew for another 3 years. They also have the requirement, as far as enforcement, that don't apply in a rezoning. So when you rezone a property, that land use changes, and the property owners have the right to whatever those zoning changes are. A temporary use permit temporarily allows certain uses, but there's also some additional conditions that can be put in. And if those conditions aren't followed, any of the conditions in the temporary use permit, the ACRD board has the option to rescind the temporary use permit. And we don't have the option to rescind zoning bylaws. We can rezone, but if the use continues, they stay legal non-conforming potentially forever. And it's also a way to temporary use permit with things, especially like campsites, to test out, is this appropriate in the site? And it's also for the Hawaiian group of businesses to also, does this work for them? And then after a period of time, they can choose to rezone or look at a different option for the property that they have. So there are certainly benefits for the property owners and the public. And it's something we see with certain types of land uses, specifically where there isn't a large capital cost to developing the property. I wouldn't, I've never recommended people use a temporary use permit if there's significant construction involved, or having to build a hotel, for example, wouldn't be an appropriate way to do it. But where there's temporary structures or lower cost developments like campsites, often they make sense as a way to, does this fit in the community? And with respect to the day use, I haven't been involved in the day-to-day of this, and I can't answer that question.
Thank you, Director Beckett.
Thank you. I just wanted to go back to Director Boyko's comments regarding the number and frequencies of the TUPs. I can't speak for the rest of the region. I will say that our local APC did review both the TUP applications, and there was good discussion and debate on these matters, and certainly your concerns are valid with respect to the process, but I'm confident that our local community and its directors has done its due diligence in attempting to get the best possible outcomes under the circumstances for both the community and for HFN and HGB. And I'll leave the last comment to simply say that, yes, I think we have to, as a board, be cognizant of the use of a TUP, but I'm satisfied our community has, again, as I said, done its due diligence.
Thank you, Director Beckett. Okay, so any other questions or comments? Motion has been moved and seconded. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Second is rezoning RD 25006-10125 Sterling Arm Crescent. Please go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. So this is an application for a zoning text amendment for 10125 Sterling Arm Crescent. And I just want to clarify that this is a site-specific comprehensive development zone that only applies to this property right now. The subject property was rezoned in October 2024 to this site-specific zone to accommodate the construction of a personal storage building intended for the secure storage of personal vehicles and equipment. Based on that proposal, the CD zone was designated to permit a total of 15% lot coverage. The zone also permits a single-family dwelling and accessory uses and buildings and home occupations. Following detailed design work, the applicant determined that a bigger building footprint is required for their needs, which represents approximately 17% of lot coverage. The current application seeks amendments to the existing CD zone to accommodate revisions to the proposed building footprint and site design while maintaining the previously approved use for the property for personal storage. The requested amendments are to increase lot coverage from 15% to 20%, reducing the minimum side yard setback from 6 meters to 5 meters, allowing a site-specific 3-meter setback along the southwest side lot line for a retaining wall and egress walkway, and reducing the rear yard setback from 10 meters to 5 meters. And I do just want to note on this one that the staff recommendation and what's included in the proposed amendment to this bylaw is a 7.75 meter rear yard setback, and that was following discussion with the Advisory Planning Commission when they met to review this. And so that's why that's there. And I just also want to touch on that septic servicing, site drainage, landscape buffers, and access have all been addressed through this application and the previous application. And I just, want to note also the lot coverage requirements. While this is a large building, it is a large lot, and the lot coverage is in line with the lot coverage requirements on the surrounding residential zoning. So it's, the lot coverage, isn't out of scope for other residential and A1 lot coverage requirements in the current zoning bylaw. And happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions or comments from the directors? Director Cote.
Thank you. Through the chair to staff, there was a question at the APC regarding drainage. Was that addressed? Thank you.
Yes, it was. Sorry, I'm just going to my notes that Alima provided. So the applicant has submitted a site plan identifying a site drainage path with directional arrows based on geodetic survey information. The drawings indicate the drainage is contained on site. A detailed drainage plan will be submitted as part of the building permit stage.
That's great. So at this time, I would like to move that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors consider first reading to bylaw P1541 Regional District of Alberni Clayoquot Zoning Text Amendment Bylaw at a future date, and that notice be given in accordance with section 467 of the Local Government Act. That the Alberni Clayoquot Board of Directors confirm that adoption of bylaw P1541 is subject to A, the property owner agreeing to the registration of a restrictive covenant. And
Director Cote, we have to vote on the first one, and then that's the second motion.
oh, okay.
Sorry. Director Boyko, did you have a comment, or are you seconding the motion?
I'll second it, and I have a question as well.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Page 217, there's a perspective view that shows a helicopter inside the building. Are we putting a helipad on this place in the future? Thank you.
Do you have a response to that, Mike, or do you know?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. The uses are staying the same. They're not changing. It's just the proposed the setbacks and the density requirement requires a zoning change.
Thank you. Director Cote?
Thank you. I don't believe that there is going to be a helicopter site or pad there. They're wanting to retain trees. That's one of the reasons why there is the setback request that's here.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Director Cote, please go ahead.
I'll move that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors confirm that adoption of bylaw P1541 is subject to A, the property owner agreeing to the registration of a restrictive covenant and easement to secure connection to the neighboring communal strata sewage disposal system. B, the property owner agreeing to the registration of a restrictive covenant to secure and maintain the landscaped buffer area along the rear property line, substantially in accordance with the approved site plan. C, confirmation from the Sprout Lake Fire Department that access and fire safety measures are in place to provide adequate fire protection to the site. And D, meeting all technical referral agency requirements.
Moved by Director Cote. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Director Sparrow. Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Next is parcel frontage waiver SE 2501 for PFW 6317 Walker Road. Mike, please go ahead.
Thank you. So this is a parcel frontage waiver for a property on Walker Road. So the board did adopt the zoning bylaw in July 2023 that's facilitated the subdivision that requires the parcel frontage waiver. The property was rezoned to facilitate the subdivision, and the Beaver Creek APC supported the proposal at that time. And I would note that the requirement for the frontage waiver was discussed as part of the rezoning application with the APC and was included in the original rezoning application report from staff. The property is 4.76 acres in size. Again, as I said before, this is the final stages of the rezoning. Two of the lots are approximately 1 acre each. They do not require the parcel frontage waiver. The proposed lot 3 is approximately 2.5 acres and would have a 20.73 meter wide panhandle driveway along the north boundary of the property, and that's what's requiring the parcel frontage waiver. And I will note that a 20.73 meter wide access, even though it requires a parcel frontage, is significant, significant amount of access. So staff are recommending that the board issue the frontage waiver under section 512 of the Local Government Act, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mike? Seeing none, Director Roth, do you want to make the motion?
Sure. I move that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors waive the 10% road frontage requirement as per section 512 of the Local Government Act for proposed lot 3 as shown on the subdivision plan for the property located at 6317 Walker Road.
Moved by Director Cote, seconded by Director Sparrow. Any final questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Sorry, Director Sparrow. My apologies. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Next is staff reports. There is the West Coast Climate Adaptation Planning Monthly Agreement and Grant Delegation Report, Building Inspector Report from June 2026, and Directors Meeting scheduled for August 2026. Is there any questions or comments from the board, or does anyone want to pull anything out? Director Sparrow.
Thank you. I'd like to talk about number 2, monthly agreement and grant delegation report. And the reason I want to pull it out is because if you look on page 236, we look for Emergency Operations Center equipment, and our grant was denied. However, this week, if you read, there's $800,000 given to 17 emergency operations centers on Vancouver Island. And I would think with us having the second largest wildfire on Vancouver Island right next door to us last year, we received some funding, but somehow we got missed, and other ones got it. Kula got some, and all the rest of them. But hopefully we keep trying next year and get some more funding so we can get the EOC working.
Shane, do you have any comments on that?
Perfect, thank you. So I do want to note we have received this grant for a number of consecutive years. As well, we did have staff follow up directly with the grantor for clarification. The general comment back was it was overprescribed, and they had considered past funding when they were doing their allocations and assessments this year. So,
thank you. Director Cote?
Thank you. On page 237, Transport Canada Boating Safety Contribution Program extension request. Have we received anything back, or?
Jane?
I don't believe we can state anything at this time.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I need a motion that the Board of Directors receive the staff reports. Moved by Director Ross, second by Director Sparrow. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Next, we have member reports. Does anyone have anything to report? Is that your hand up? Director Cote.
Thank you. I'd like to report out that water level at Sprout Lake is extremely low. Rivers are suffering, fish are suffering in the rivers trying to get through to the lakes. SOMAS Fish Flow Committee is looking for creative ways to collect data on fish management. There's proposals being brought forward that are innovative, and hopefully we'll be able to move forward on something in the future because our fishing industry is very important to our area. I also like to report out that I think it was July 7th, Sprout Lake OCP open house happened, and at the community hall there was 181 people in attendance, and staff presented the first reading of the OCP. There was a lot of comments that came back from the community. We listened, and staff are working with the community for an update for second reading in the future. But right now we're working with community, and I think staff are doing an excellent job. I came away, there's a lot of comments that that we didn't get it right the first time, but a lot of comments coming forward with suggestions, and I thought that we did an excellent job going forward. So we're there to listen. It is the community's vision. So thank you to staff for doing the job that you're doing. I know it's not easy. Thank you.
Just to add to your first comment about how low the lake is right now, the creeks dried out at the golf course, I think in May, and I've never ever seen that before, ever. And there was actually a lot of fry in the creek, and there was hardly any water, and one of the members did call fisheries, and they came to get them. So that was encouraging. Yeah, at least they were saved. Yeah, but I've never seen it dry like that before, so early. Dr. Sold, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you want to talk about all the exciting things happening down at Harper Key?
Oh, we could piggyback on that. So the Harper Key, we all know the hometown takeover is there, and it's really exciting for the community. If you've ever watched it, they look for the heartbeat of the community, which happened to be the Harper Key. A lot of people we've seen made comments, why aren't we doing Third Avenue? Third Avenue is not ready for something like that, and it's not the heartbeat at this moment in time. The city, of course, has put money into renovations. There's been a lot of questions about who is paying for what. And I just want to state that anything that has to do inside the buildings of a particular business, whoever they have chosen, we don't get that choice. That is the production team. Anything in the homes that they have picked, and they've picked people. A lot of people have made comments too that it was us that made reference to who was going to get their home renovated. Actually, it was the applicants, and they wanted people who, if you've watched the show, they wanted people who have done so much for a community, and volunteered, and they neglect their own homes. So that was really important. And I don't know who it was, because we all had to sign NDAs. We didn't find out to the very end. We still don't know who it is. We're going to be surprised just as much as the public. And so anything that had to be renovated in the homes is up to the production company. They pay for it all. I was told that one guy received a call and said, well, you have to be moved out of your house by tomorrow. And they went to the government liquor store and got all the boxes to do this. So this is the kind of notices that have gone out, and some of the public have spoken that they're getting it done, but everybody that's involved has to sign an NDA. The second is anything that's outside, like in the Harper Key, the outside of the building, the city is paying for that. But the best thing about it is that the production team is really working with the city on design and concept. And that's just
it's amazing. Lots of things happening. The roundabout is almost done too on that. And $8.3 million project. I know it's been frustrating, but it really actually does work because of my experience being the years of having a business down, which is Soldis Restaurant, as everybody knows. I've seen near accidents, near misses. People who live up in that area have seen the same thing. People pulled out trying to access River Road. They've done UEs on Beaver Creek, so they didn't have to wait in line. So this has been a positive. I've had people come up to me and say, hey, I was so against it. I really think it's going to work. Give it a chance. And then, of course, the city has the Clutesy there. And once all the roundabout is done, then this will have, then the Clutesy is going to get their fix. And so there's a lot of positive. Also, people have made comments about the artwork that's going to in the center. And I found out from T-Shot that the artwork should be ready by September. And it's going to be an amazing, it's a well-known artist. So look forward to that. People just have to learn how to signal around that roundabout, because we have people coming from Sprout Lake onto the roundabout and they don't even look to see a car, right? You know, making that turn on the roundabout. And I know there's been some near misses. So it's going to be all about education. So we do, and I just want to make comment in the city. I see a lot of the crews out working and doing the flower beds, doing different things around the city, and it's really great to see that. Not everybody's going to be happy, but you know, we're really doing our best. We also, the best news too for me, and the home takeover, is that we do have now a pedestrian light on Johnson Road. But are we, you know, on one of the crosswalks? And that was really serious because you can see in the dark and you can't see people crossing. I still think there should be another one. I'm going to be a wait and see on that. So, you know, and of course the Bertelt building right across from Little Bavaria is almost finished there. It looks great. That's a really good positive. And I've shared online, and if you go to the City Connect, it talks about the Somas Mill development. So if you want to know more information, what's happening and up to date, we've updated it as of today. So take a look about the development process, and yeah. So I'm just really happy where we're going. We still have the issues like every other community. Don't get me wrong. We are working on that, and it's a slow process because you can't solve issues like we have overnight. So that's my big news. Was that good enough? Do you want to say
That was
anything?
awesome. Just to add to that, at my meeting with Mr. Farnworth last week, I thanked him for the roundabout, and I said, when Michael Pearson came and presented to City Council, I said, I hate roundabouts, but I love this roundabout. It just goes so smoothly. Anybody else like to give a report? If someone from the West Coast is still there, I was wondering if maybe you could just comment on the tourism this year, how things are going on the West Coast.
We are swamped here in Ucluelet, lineups everywhere for restaurants. And so all the locals are learning to cook at home.
Thank you. Any comments, Director Steer?
Yeah, it has been busy. I've been working out of town, so I haven't been directly involved. But the conversations I've had with a number of the tour operators and restaurants, there seems to be a discretion in terms of who's saying they're having a good season and who's saying they're not. But certainly the downtown is very, very, very active. The beaches certainly are being well utilized, and so I think there's more smiles than not smiles in terms of those tourism businesses that are doing well this season.
That's great to hear. Anyone else? Seeing no other reports, can I motion to accept the member reports? Moved by Director Ross, second by Director Sparrow. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. No late items, and next is question period. Any questions from the people in the galley? Seeing none, is there any questions online? Okay, so now we need to go in camera. I'd like to make the motion to close the meeting to the public as per the community charter Sections 91E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements. If the council considers that the closure could reasonably be expected to harm the interest of the municipality. 91I, the receipt of advice is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. And 91.2, if all or part of a meeting is closed to the public, the council may allow a person other than municipal officers and employees to attend. A, in the case of a meeting that must be closed under section 92, if the council considers this necessary and the person I already has knowledge of the confidential information. Could I get a seconder to go in camera? Moved by Director Hager, second by Director Solda. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. At this point, staff has asked me to take a 5-minute recess so they can get organized. So I'd like us to come back at 4 o'clock to the in-camera portion of our meeting. Could I get a motion to recess? Moved by Director Ross, second by Director Sparrow. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. We'll see everyone back here at 4 o'clock. Thank you.